Oops. How careless of me. Chloe, why would you push me?
Chloe, what is wrong with you?
Liam, wait. Something isn't right.
I watched the dark red Cabernet soak into the pristine white carpet, then looked up at Vanessa's perfectly manufactured, tear-filled eyes. That was the exact moment my marriage didn't just crack, it shattered. But if she thought a spilled glass of wine would break me, she wildly underestimated me. The evening was supposed to be a triumph. It was our 5th wedding anniversary, and I had spent the better part of 3 weeks transforming our home in the quiet suburbs of Oakwood Heights into an elegant, warmly lit sanctuary for 30 of our closest friends. The catering was flawless. The string quartet was softly playing in the corner of the living room, and the air smelled of roasted garlic, rosemary, and expensive beeswax candles. I was wearing a stunning emerald green dress that Liam, my husband, had picked out for me. Everything was picture perfect. Everything, that is, until Vanessa walked through the door. Vanessa was Liam's childhood friend. They grew up 3 houses down from each other in a small town in Ohio, and she had always been the lingering shadow in our relationship. She was a high-end real estate agent, and she carried herself with the kind of practiced, predatory grace of a woman who was entirely too used to getting whatever she wanted. To Liam, she was just like a sister. To me, she was a woman who never missed an opportunity to remind me that she knew him first, knew him best, and would always occupy a space in his life that I could never touch. There were always subtle microaggressions. It was the way she would linger a little too long when she hugged him, pressing her cheek against his neck. It was the way she brought up inside jokes from high school at dinner parties, completely alienating me from the conversation. It was the accidental late-night phone calls when she had a bad day, knowing Liam would answer. I had tried to set boundaries over the years, but every time I did, Liam would accuse me of being insecure. "Chloe, she's practically family," he would sigh, rubbing his temples. "Don't make this into something it's not." So, I played the good wife. I smiled. I invited her to our anniversary party. She arrived 40 minutes late, wearing a white, deeply plunging silk slip dress that looked more suited for a honeymoon suite than a suburban anniversary party. The moment she entered, she made a beeline for Liam, throwing her arms around him and practically burying her face in his chest. I felt my jaw tighten, but I forced a smile, turning back to my conversation with my best friend, Sarah. "I give it an hour before she does something to make this night about her," Sarah muttered under her breath, taking a sip of her champagne. "Don't jinx it," I whispered back, though a knot of anxiety was already tightening in my stomach. By 9 p.m., the party was in full swing, and I retreated to the kitchen to open another bottle of the 2018 Cabernet Sauvignon we had bought on our honeymoon in Napa. The kitchen was somewhat isolated from the main living area, separated by a short hallway and a heavy oak door that was currently propped open. I had just uncorked the bottle and was pouring a fresh glass for myself when I heard the sharp clicking of heels on the hardwood floor. I didn't even need to turn around to know it was Vanessa. "Great party, Chloe," she said. Her voice was smooth, but there was a sharp, mocking edge to it that she only ever used when Liam wasn't around. "Thanks, Vanessa," I replied evenly, not looking up as I set the bottle down. "I'm glad you could make it." She stepped closer, leaning against the marble kitchen island. She picked up the glass of red wine I had just poured for myself and twirled it by the stem. "You know, it's so sweet how hard you try. The catered food, the little string quartet. It's very domestic." "It's our anniversary," I said, my patience already wearing thin. We wanted to celebrate. "Right. 5 years." She took a slow sip from my glass, her eyes locked on mine. "He told me he almost bought you a diamond tennis bracelet for tonight, but I told him that wasn't really your style. I told him you were more of a practical household appliance kind of girl." My blood ran cold. He had asked her for advice on my anniversary gift, and she had talked him out of jewelry? "Vanessa, put the glass down. I have guests to attend to." "You know he called me last week, right?" she continued, ignoring my request. She stepped even closer, invading my personal space. The heavy scent of her jasmine perfume was suffocating. "He said he's feeling suffocated, Chloe. He said you're always managing him, always nagging. He misses how free he used to be. How free we used to be." "Get out of my kitchen," I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. I reached out to take the wine glass back from her. I didn't push her. I didn't grab her wrist. I simply reached for the stem of the crystal glass. Vanessa's lips curled into a wicked, triumphant smirk. Oops, she whispered. Before my brain could even process what was happening, Vanessa deliberately tilted the glass toward herself. The dark red Cabernet cascaded down the front of her pristine white silk dress, staining it like fresh blood. Then, with a theatrical gasp, she threw her hands up, letting the heavy crystal glass plummet to the tile floor. Crash! The sound shattered the dull hum of the party outside. A split second later, Vanessa let out a blood-curdling, panicked sob. Chloe, why would you do that? Footsteps rushed down the hallway. Liam was the first one through the door, followed closely by his friend Tom and my friend Sarah. Liam's eyes darted from the shattered glass on the floor to the massive red stain on Vanessa's dress, and finally, to me. My hand was still awkwardly suspended in the air from where I had reached for the glass. Oh my God, Liam! Vanessa wailed, clutching her ruined dress and shrinking away from me as if I were a monster. She forced massive, fat tears to spill down her cheeks. I was just trying to help her pour the wine, and she snapped! She shoved the glass right into my chest and pushed me. Liam, that is a lie! I gasped, the shock finally breaking. I didn't touch her. She poured it on herself. Liam didn't look at her. He looked at me. And the look in my husband's eyes will haunt me for the rest of my life. It wasn't confusion. It wasn't a silent question asking for my side of the story. It was pure, unadulterated disgust. He believed her instantly. Without a shred of hesitation, he looked at his wife of 5 years, and he saw an unhinged, jealous woman. Chloe, Liam said, his voice trembling with a mixture of rage and embarrassment. What the hell is wrong with you? Liam, I swear to you, I did not push her. I pleaded, my voice cracking as the reality of the situation began to set in. The kitchen had gone deathly silent, save for Vanessa's exaggerated, breathy sobs. The music from the living room seemed a million miles away. Don't lie to me, Chloe. I just walked in and saw your hand out, Liam shouted, stepping in front of Vanessa protectively. He actually put his arm around her shoulder, shielding her from me. The gesture felt like a physical blow to my chest. Liam, it's okay, Vanessa whimpered, burying her face into his suit jacket. She's always hated me. I shouldn't have come. I'm so sorry I ruined your night. You didn't ruin anything, Ness, Liam said softly, using his pet name for her. He glared at me, his jaw set. My wife ruined it. Come on, let's get you cleaned up. He guided her out of the kitchen, whispering apologies to her as they passed our stunned friends. Sarah immediately rushed to my side, grabbing my hand. Chloe, what happened? I know you didn't do that. She poured it on herself, Sarah. She looked right at me, smiled, and poured it down her own chest. I whispered, my hands shaking uncontrollably. Tom, Liam's friend, looked awkwardly at the floor. I'm gonna go check on the others, he mumbled, fleeing the tension. The rest of the party was a nightmare. The festive atmosphere evaporated instantly. The string quartet packed up early. Guests began making quiet, awkward excuses about having early mornings or needing to relieve their babysitters. Liam stayed upstairs in the guest bedroom with Vanessa for nearly 20 minutes, ostensibly helping her find something of mine to change into. I stood by the front door, numbly thanking people for coming, accepting their pitying glances and awkward hugs. I felt entirely detached from my own body. By 10:30 p.m., the house was empty. The silence was deafening, broken only by the hum of the refrigerator and the sound of Liam's heavy footsteps coming down the stairs. He had finally seen Vanessa out through the back door to her Uber, bypassing me entirely. When he walked into the living room, I was sitting on the sofa, staring blankly at the wall. Are you happy now? Liam demanded, loosening his tie and throwing it onto an armchair. You completely humiliated me in front of our friends. You assaulted one of my oldest friends because you can't control your pathetic, irrational jealousy. I did not touch her, Liam, I said, my voice completely devoid of emotion. I was too exhausted to yell. If you actually believe I would do something like that, then you don't know me at all. I know that you've hated Vanessa since the day you met her, he fired back, pacing the room. She is going through a terrible breakup right now, Chloe. She is incredibly fragile, and she came here tonight to support us, and you attacked her. A breakup? I laughed sharply, a bitter sound. Is that what she told you? Liam, she provoked me. She told me you called her complaining about me. She told me she talked you out of my anniversary gift. Liam stopped pacing. A flicker of something guilt, panic, crossed his face, but he quickly masked it with anger. You are delusional. I'm not doing this tonight. I can't even look at you right now. He grabbed a blanket off the back of the sofa. I'm sleeping down here. Do not come near me. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. The absolute certainty in his voice, the way he had instinctively chosen her over me without asking a single question, killed whatever fight I had left in me. I stood up, walked up the stairs, and went into our master bedroom. I closed the door, locking it behind me, and sat on the edge of the bed. For hours, I just sat there. Sleep was impossible. My mind raced, replaying the smirk on Vanessa's face, the crash of the glass, the disgust in Liam's eyes. Around 2 a.m., a sudden thought pierced through the fog of my misery. Vanessa had changed in the guest bedroom. I don't know what compelled me to do it. Maybe it was a desperate need to find something, anything, that would prove I wasn't crazy. I quietly unlocked my door, crept down the hallway, and pushed open the door to the guest room. The room smelled strongly of her jasmine perfume. Her ruined white silk dress was tossed carelessly into the corner, leaving a faint pink stain on the baseboard. I walked over to the bed to strip the linens, but as I pulled the duvet back, something hard clattered onto the hardwood floor. I froze, listening to see if the sound had woken Liam downstairs. Silence. I knelt down and picked up the object. It was a sleek, silver Apple iPad Pro. It must have slipped out of Vanessa's oversized designer tote bag when she was changing, getting tangled in the heavy blankets. I stared at it in my hands. The screen was dark. I knew I shouldn't snoop. It was a violation of privacy. But the woman had just framed me for assault and torpedoed my marriage. Privacy was no longer a courtesy I was willing to extend. I tapped the screen. It woke up. Naturally, it was passcode protected. I sighed, feeling a wave of defeat wash over me. I moved to set the iPad on the nightstand, deciding to give it back to Liam in the morning. But as I placed it down, the screen lit up brightly. A text message notification had just come through. Even at 2:15 a.m., the message was clear as day on the lock screen. It was an iMessage from a contact saved simply as L. My heart slammed against my ribs. I stared at the bright white bubble on the screen. L. I'm on the couch. She actually locked the bedroom door, lol. Are you home safe? We need to finalize the transfer for the escrow account by Tuesday before she sees the bank statements. Love you. The air rushed out of my lungs as if I had been punched. I read the message again. And again. Escrow account, bank statements, love you. This wasn't just an emotional affair. This wasn't just a childhood friendship with boundary issues. They were buying a house together. They were moving money out of our joint accounts. Vanessa hadn't spilled the wine because she was petty and jealous. She spilled the wine to manufacture a massive, marriage-ending fight. She needed Liam angry enough at me to blind him to whatever financial trap they were springing. Or perhaps she needed the final push to make him leave me this very weekend. I sat down on the edge of the guest bed, the cold metal of the iPad burning into my palms. My tears dried up instantly. The shattered, heartbroken wife who had retreated upstairs 2 hours ago was gone. In her place, something cold, calculating, and dangerously calm took root. Liam wanted a war? Fine. But I was going to make sure he and Vanessa were the ones who bled. The first thing I did was reach for my own phone. My hands were remarkably steady now, the adrenaline stripping away the shock and leaving behind a hyper-focused clarity. I snapped a dozen photos of the iPad's illuminated lock screen, making sure the time, the date, and the damning message from L were perfectly legible. I took pictures from different angles to ensure there was no glare, no room for Liam to claim it was photoshopped. Once I had the evidence safely backed up to my personal cloud drive, I set the iPad exactly where I had found it on the floor, gently draping the edge of the duvet over it to make it look as though it had simply fallen during the night. I left the guest room and tiptoed into my home office. I locked the door, pulled the blackout curtains tightly shut, and cracked open my laptop. The blue light washed over my face in the dark room. We had a joint checking and savings account with Chase Bank, but Liam had always been the one to manage our larger investments. I had trusted him implicitly. I pulled up our online banking portal, typing in the password with stiff fingers. At first glance, everything looked normal. Our checking account had the usual balance to cover the mortgage and utilities. Our primary savings account looked untouched. But then I clicked on the secondary high-yield savings account, the one where we had been pooling our bonuses for the last 3 years to eventually buy a vacation property in upstate New York. The balance was $14,000. Last month, it had been over $185,000. I felt a physical wave of nausea wash over me, bile rising in my throat. I furiously clicked on the transaction history. There it was. 3 weeks ago, a wire transfer of $50,000 had been sent to an external account under the name Crestview Holdings LLC. 2 weeks ago, another $45,000. A week ago, Mater Section 70,000. Liam was draining our life savings, siphon by siphon, right under my nose. And the final transfer, the escrow transfer he had texted Vanessa about, was set to clear on Tuesday. They were buying a house with my money. The audacity of it was breathtaking. He had planned this down to the very last detail. Vanessa hadn't just been a willing participant in an affair. She was his co-conspirator in grand larceny. The spilled wine, the accusations, the orchestrated fight, it was all a smokescreen. They needed a catastrophic blow-up this weekend, so Liam could justify storming out, finalizing the paperwork on Monday, and blinding me to the missing funds until it was far too late. He probably planned to serve me with divorce papers by Wednesday, claiming we had grown irreconcilably apart after my abusive behavior at the party. By the time the sun began to peek through the edges of the curtains, casting a gray light over my office, I had downloaded every single bank statement, every transaction record, and every tax return from the last 5 years. I emailed them to a secure, brand new address I created on the spot. At 7 a.m., I heard the shower turn on in the downstairs guest bathroom. Liam was awake. I took a deep breath, walked into the master bathroom, and looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red-rimmed and swollen from the tears I had shed earlier, playing perfectly into the role of the devastated, repentant wife. I splashed cold water on my face, messed up my hair to look appropriately disheveled, and walked downstairs. Liam was in the kitchen, aggressively scrubbing the red wine stain on the floor tiles with a sponge. He didn't look up when I walked in. "Liam," I whispered, injecting a slight tremor into my voice. "I don't want to hear it, Chloe," he snapped, throwing the sponge into the sink. "I am leaving for the weekend. I'm going to stay at a hotel. I can't be in the same house as you right now. I need space to figure out what the hell we are doing." A hotel. I almost laughed out loud. "I understand," I said softly, staring at the floor. I was cleaning up the guest room. Vanessa left her iPad. I held out the sleek silver tablet. Liam's eyes widened for a fraction of a second, a flash of genuine panic crossing his features, before he quickly masked it with his standard irritated scowl. He snatched it out of my hands. "Did you go through it?" he demanded, his voice dropping an octave. "No," I lied, looking up at him with wide, innocent eyes. "It's locked anyway. I just wanted to give it to you before you left, so you could get it back to her." He exhaled slowly, visibly relaxing. "Fine. I'll drop it off on my way." He grabbed his duffel bag from the hallway. "Don't call me Chloe. I mean it." "Okay," I whispered. The moment the front door clicked shut, my fragile, trembling facade vanished. I locked the deadbolt, pulled my phone out of my pocket, and dialed Sarah's number. She picked up on the second ring, her voice thick with sleep and worry. "Chloe, oh my God, are you okay? What happened last night was insane." "Sarah," I interrupted, my voice deadpan and flat. "I need you to give me the number of the divorce attorney your sister used when her husband tried to hide his assets in the Caymans. I need the shark." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. The sleepiness vanished from Sarah's voice entirely. "His name is Mitchell Davies. I'm texting you his direct cell right now." "Chloe, what did you find?" "A massacre," I replied coldly. "And now I'm going to return the favor." Mitchell Davies did not look like a man who destroyed lives for a living. He was a soft-spoken, grandfatherly man with round tortoiseshell glasses, a fondness for tweed vests, and a corner office in downtown Chicago that smelled faintly of old paper and peppermint. But within 10 minutes of reviewing the printed bank statements and the photographs of the iPad screen I had laid out on his mahogany desk, I saw the predator behind his eyes. It was Monday morning. Liam was still at his hotel, meaning he was nestled comfortably in Vanessa's townhouse across the city. "This is a classic dissipation of marital assets," Mitchell said smoothly, tapping a gold pen against the transaction logs. Your husband isn't just cheating, Chloe. He is actively committing financial fraud against you. Crestview Holdings LLC is almost certainly a shell company. Vanessa set up using her real estate credentials to hide the property purchase. The text message said they need to finalize the transfer for the escrow account by Tuesday, I said, pointing to the printed photo of the lock screen. Tomorrow. If that money clears, it's gone, right? Not gone, but incredibly messy to claw back in court, Mitchell corrected, leaning back in his leather chair. However, since we have the timeline, we have the upper hand. I have a private investigator on retainer. He can pull the LLC incorporation documents and find out exactly what property they are buying and which title company is handling the closing. Mitchell made a brief phone call. Within 45 minutes, while I drank a cup of black coffee that tasted like battery acid, we had our answers. Crestview Holdings LLC had been registered 3 months ago. The sole managing member listed was Vanessa. And the property? It was a stunning $2.5 million modern farmhouse in the ultra-exclusive northern suburbs. Liam and I had driven past that exact neighborhood a year ago, and I had remarked how beautiful it was. He had laughed and told me we couldn't afford it. He was right. We couldn't. But he and Vanessa could. Courtesy of the $171,000 down payment Liam had stolen from my savings to pad their mortgage application. The closing is scheduled for 10 a.m. tomorrow at the offices of Vanguard Title and Escrow, Mitchell said, reading off an email from his investigator. The final wire transfer from his account is scheduled to hit their escrow by 9 a.m. So you freeze the account? I asked, my heart pounding. You stop the wire? Mitchell smiled, and it was a terrifying, brilliant thing. We could, but if we freeze the account today, Liam gets an alert from the bank. He stalls the closing, hides Vanessa, and prepares a defense. He gets to control the narrative. Mitchell leaned forward, steepling his fingers. I propose something far more effective. We don't stop the wire. We let it go through. But at 8 a.m. tomorrow, I will file an ex parte emergency motion with the family court judge, placing a hard freeze on Crestview Holdings LLC and attaching a lien to the property the second the deed is recorded, citing egregious marital fraud. We will lock the money inside the house, and we will lock the house in a legal purgatory they cannot escape. And what do? I asked, a slow smile spreading across my face. You, my dear, are going to get dressed up, and you are going to attend your husband's closing. That night, Liam came home. He walked through the front door around 7 p.m., looking refreshed, smug, and thoroughly convinced he held all the cards. I was sitting at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of tea. I had spent the afternoon packing my most valuable belongings, important documents, and irreplaceable heirlooms into the trunk of my car, parked securely in Sarah's garage a few miles away. The house looked completely undisturbed. We need to talk, Liam said, adopting a solemn, condescending tone. He sat across from me, sighing heavily. This weekend gave me a lot of clarity, Chloe. What happened on Friday night? It was the final straw. Your jealousy is toxic. I can't live like this anymore. I know, I whispered, staring down at my tea. I had to bite the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted copper, just to keep from screaming in his face. You're right. I've been out of control. Liam looked mildly surprised by my immediate capitulation, but his ego quickly absorbed it. I'm glad you can finally admit it. I'm going to have my lawyer draft up some preliminary separation papers. I think it's best if we handle this amicably. We can split the checking account, and we'll figure out the house later. But I want a clean break. He was trying to get me to verbally agree to a separation before I noticed the missing $171,000. He thought I was a naive, heartbroken idiot. Amicable is best, I agreed softly. Where will you stay? I've found a temporary rental, Liam lied smoothly, not missing a beat. It's nothing special, but it will do for now. Okay, I said, finally looking up to meet his eyes. We'll talk more tomorrow. I have some heavy meetings tomorrow morning, he said quickly, standing up. I won't be reachable until the afternoon. Good luck with your meetings, I replied. He slept in the guest bedroom again. I slept in the master, and for the first time in days, I slept deeply and peacefully. I dreamt of fire, of burning down the pristine, manufactured reality Liam and Vanessa had built on my dime. Tuesday morning arrived with crisp, cool air. Liam left the house at 8:30 a.m., wearing his sharpest navy suit, practically whistling as he walked to his car. The second his taillights disappeared down the street, I went to my closet. I bypassed the conservative, understated clothes Liam usually preferred on me. I pulled out a tailored, crimson-red power suit I had bought for a corporate presentation years ago. I put on my highest black stilettos, applied a bold red lipstick, and grabbed my designer handbag. I looked like a woman going to war. At 9:45 a.m., I pulled into the parking lot of Vanguard Title and Escrow. Mitchell's black town car was already parked near the entrance. I stepped out, the crisp morning wind catching my hair, and walked toward the glass doors. It was time to crash the party. The heavy glass doors of Vanguard Title and Escrow slid open with a quiet hum, letting in the chaotic sounds of downtown traffic for a split second before sealing us inside the hushed, mahogany-paneled lobby. Mitchell Davies was waiting for me by the leather reception couches, holding a sleek black leather briefcase. He looked at my crimson-red power suit, my sharp stilettos, and the absolute fire in my eyes, and he offered a small, approving nod. "The judge signed the emergency order 20 minutes ago," Mitchell murmured as I walked up to him. "The lien is active. The wire transfer hit the escrow account at 8:55 a.m., which means the funds are legally frozen in transit. They cannot close, and they cannot get the money back." "Perfect," I whispered, adjusting the strap of my handbag. "Where are they?" "Conference room B, down the hall, to the left." The receptionist, a young woman with a headset, looked up with a polite, professional smile. "Good morning. Can I help you find?" She trailed off as Mitchell held up a hand, completely bypassing her desk. We walked down the plush, carpeted hallway. My stilettos clicked rhythmically against the floorboards framing the carpet, sounding like the ticking of a very dangerous clock. As we approached the frosted glass door of Conference Room B, I could hear the muffled sounds of laughter, Liam's laugh, and Vanessa's high-pitched, triumphant giggle. I didn't knock. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed the silver handle and shoved the door open so hard it banged against the wall stopper, rattling the glass panes. The scene inside was sickeningly domestic. Liam and Vanessa were sitting side by side at a massive granite conference table. Vanessa was wearing a chic, cream-colored pantsuit, looking every bit the victorious new homeowner. Between them sat a bottle of Veuve Clicquot champagne, already uncorked, with two half-empty flutes beside a towering stack of closing documents. Across the table sat the escrow agent, a balding man who looked up in sheer terror as I stormed into the room. Liam's smile vanished so fast it was as if it had been violently wiped from his face. The color drained from his cheeks, leaving him looking like a sick gray ghost. "Chloe?" he choked out, his voice cracking entirely. "What are you doing here?" Vanessa's eyes darted from me to Mitchell, her practiced smirk faltering into an expression of raw, unadulterated panic. She instinctively slid her chair an inch away from Liam. "Just thought I'd drop by your heavy morning meetings, Liam," I said, my voice dripping with venom. I walked slowly to the end of the table, resting my hands on the cool granite. I looked at the champagne flutes, then back at his terrified face. "Celebrating a bit early, aren't we?" "Ma'am, this is a private closing," the escrow agent stammered, half standing. "You can't be in here." Mitchell stepped forward, placing his briefcase on the table with a heavy thud. He pulled out a thick stack of court documents stamped with the county seal. "Actually, Bob, it's Bob, isn't it? I'm Mitchell Davies, Chloe's legal counsel, and I'm afraid this closing is officially canceled." "Canceled?" Vanessa shrieked, her voice pitching up hysterically. "You can't do that. The wire transfer already went through. The house is mine." "The LLC is yours, Vanessa," Mitchell corrected smoothly, sliding the emergency injunction across the table to the escrow agent. However, the $171,000 used to fund the down payment was fraudulently siphoned from a joint marital account belonging to my client. As of 9:40 a.m., a family court judge has frozen the Crestview Holdings LLC accounts and placed a lis pendens on the property. Liam looked like he was going to vomit. He stared at the court documents, his chest heaving. Chloe, listen to me," he started, his hands trembling as he reached toward me. "I can explain. It's an investment. I was going to tell you." "An investment?" I laughed, a sharp, cold sound that echoed in the silent room. "You were going to tell me? Is that why you told Vanessa you needed to finalize the transfer before I saw the bank statements?" Is that why you orchestrated a fight at our anniversary party so you could sleep at your temporary hotel? Vanessa's head whipped toward Liam. She saw the texts. You let her see the iPad? She hissed, her pristine facade crumbling into pure venomous rage. You left it in the guest bedroom, Vanessa, I said, smiling directly at her. Right next to the silk dress you purposely ruined. You thought you were so clever. You thought you could frame me for a tantrum, steal my life savings, and ride off into the sunset. But you made one fatal mistake. You underestimated me. Liam, do something, Vanessa demanded, slamming her hand on the table. My name is on this contract. If we default on this closing, I lose my earnest money. It's $50,000. Your earnest money? Liam yelled back at her, the panic finally breaking his composure. She froze my money. I don't have anything left. Oh, it gets worse, Mitchell chimed in cheerfully. He looked at Liam with the cold precision of a surgeon. Because you transferred marital assets to a third-party paramour to deliberately hide them during an impending divorce, we will be seeking a disproportionate share of the remaining marital estate. Furthermore, Vanessa, as a licensed real estate agent in this state, participating in financial fraud to purchase a property using stolen funds is a severe ethics violation. I have already forwarded a formal complaint to the state licensing board, along with the iPad photographs and wire transfer logs. Vanessa physically recoiled as if she had been struck. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked at Liam, realizing in real time that the golden goose she had manipulated wasn't just dead, it was about to drag her down into the dirt with it. The escrow agent, Bob, frantically gathered his papers, looking like he wanted to be literally anywhere else on Earth. I have to stop the proceedings. The title cannot be transferred under these conditions. Excuse me. He fled the room, leaving the four of us in a suffocating silence. Liam fell back into his chair, burying his face in his hands. He was shaking. The arrogant, condescending man who had told me my jealousy was toxic just 12 hours ago was entirely broken. Chloe, please, Liam begged, looking up at me with tears streaming down his face. Please don't do this. I'll give it all back. We can fix this. Just call off the lawyers. I looked at the man I had loved for 5 years. I looked at the childhood friend who had haunted my marriage from day one. I felt no sadness, no heartbreak, only the immense, satisfying warmth of total victory. There's nothing left to fix, Liam, I said quietly, picking up my designer handbag. I'll see you in court. I turned on my heel and walked out of the conference room, leaving my cheating husband and his manipulative mistress trapped in the wreckage of their own making. As the glass doors of the building slid closed behind me, I stepped out into the bright city sunlight, took a deep breath of the crisp air, and smiled. That's the story of how a spilled glass of wine cost my cheating ex-husband a $2 million house and his entire life savings. If you loved hearing how a gaslighting narcissist got exactly what he deserved, make sure to hit that like button. Share this video with anyone who needs a reminder to never ignore their gut instincts. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more dramatic real-life revenge stories. I'll see you in the next one.